Can I ask all of you to think of good questions that I did not ask in the time we have remaining? Let me go to the back first, and then we'll come to the front and do our thing. Ma'am.
What is the #1 problem facing our country?
It's a big question.
I think the #1 problem facing the country is our capacity to mobilize ourselves to do the things that we need to do to retain leadership and rising standards of living over the long term. The challenge is to do very difficult things, whether it's balance the budget, whether it's make investment in infrastructure, whether it's make the education system once again world class, whether it's maintain our competitive edge with innovation. So I think that mobilizing people to take the big tough decisions that we need so that your children 50 years from now or 40 years from now will feel about America as you feel about America, having lived through the golden age of the end of World War II to today.
There was a woman here, or a gentleman in the front, and then right here, and then come over to Dale. Sir.
Oh, I'm just fascinated by Julian Assange. He seems to be reviled in some quarters, extolled in others, all positions in between. I just wonder how you come down on this.
I'm not the WikiLeaks guy for the benefit of everybody.
I'm not a big fan of him, quite frankly. I think that in order for governments to function, they have to be able to have some confidentiality. And I understand, if you're in a world where there's an issue that is terribly divisive, and both sides have been strongly on their respective sides, take the Vietnam War, and there is a document that shows the opposite of what people were led to believe by their government, then, the Pentagon Papers, okay, that was something you take a shot at. But just to leak all of this stuff that the political officer in Kabul said to the State Department, or the Paris office said to the visiting South African Prime Minister, to me, the only good thing about this WikiLeaks is, and I guarantee you this, that there has been more ink about foreign policy in the last 3 weeks than there have been in the last 10 years.
That's right.
So maybe that's a subsidiary benefit to this, but I would err on the side of saying you don't endanger your sources and intelligence, and you don't unmask your government unless you have some reason to believe that there's lying going on.
I can't figure out why Secretary Clinton is getting so much crap for this. There have been calls for her to resign over the contents of these cables. Is she doing anything differently?
Who's calling?
There have been some some columnists have said, I think this is...
Who? Are they just Republicans taking a shot?
No, I don't think so. Can you see anything in this that you think is reflects negatively on either her or on the administration?
Absolutely not. I think she's doing a good job. And no, what these things show, if you give everybody the benefit of the doubt, is what they show are honorable people grappling with very difficult situations for which there's not a specific accepted answer, and they're trying things out.
That's it. That's government, right? Ms. Scanlon.
I want to know your opinion on the compromise that Obama is attempting to make with the Republicans over the extending the tax cut.
Yeah, I thought he was going to ask that actually, but then I realized it was too
deep.
Too deep.
Yeah.
No, it was too time sensitive. That's what.
Well, I was prepared to take a bigger knock.
This time
actually.
next week, who knows?
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
After, right.
Well, the reality is, if he's going to get anything done, he's got to have Republican support, right? And so making an agreement that extends the tax rates for 2 years, to me, that's what Republicans want more than anything, right? So, and this is coming up. So you say, okay, that's what I got to trade. What do I get? and they got, the things you know about. They got
13 months of
they got
benefits, right?
13 months of unemployment benefits, 2% cut in the Social Security for a year or two, some increase in the earned income tax credit, college credit, so forth. So I would have done the unemployment, and then I would have done one other thing and let these other things go, and that is, I would have done a wage subsidy, and I would have stepped back and said, okay, what does Obama have to have if he's going to be reelected? Well, we've got to get unemployment to 7%. That's 2.5%. Okay, well, if you had a wage subsidy that said, okay, he gives the speech yesterday. The number of people working in your factory as of the day or office, the day of the speech, that's your baseline. If you hire another person and don't fire anybody, then that incremental job, the federal government will pay 15 to 20% of that job. And so no money is spent unless an incremental job is created. And if he did that sizably enough, 100 billion, 120 billion, which is basically what the Social Security cut is, then he would have 7% unemployment. And by that time, also maybe the momentum had headed more. We'd have a little more growth. We could have, if we dealt with the long-term deficit issue, he would have had in place something that you could say, well, I think he sat down with a bunch of economists. And, the economists don't like a wage subsidy, except the guy that won a Nobel Prize thinking it up, right? And they like this tax thing where, you cut everybody's taxes. And I'm sure his political people said, well, what is it? Do we really need the unemployment rate at 7%? Or would you like to give everybody a $800 tax cut or a $1,000 tax cut?
Can you just explain why do the Republicans want that more than anything? Tax cuts for the wealthy, and why don't they get slammed on it?
Well, they want that more than anything because they've been kind of transparent in saying our goal through the entire Bush 8 years, and maybe might even say earlier, is that people who are wealthy should pay less tax. And, on one level you could say that just serves their plutocratic interests, right? Or you could say that they actually believe that if you have lower rates, then people have more money and they then invest in their business and they hire more people. Rising tide lifts all boats type thing.
But of course, the tax rates for the wealthy were higher during the Clinton years when the economy was significantly healthier.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think there's not a substantive reason to keep the tax rates at 35, but it's just their politics. Who knows? It might be related to campaign contributions, it might be related to their view of the world, might be related to any number of other possibilities. But it's not, I've never found it productive to try to divine exactly why Republicans do what they do.
This is something that you and Mrs. Scanlon, I suspect, share. Mr. Eggleston.
There's a piece in the New Yorker about the fact that the Senate is basically a broken institution. Do you think they'll get some rules through at the beginning of the next session that will help address that?
I don't think you need new rules. I think you need the leadership to use the existing rules. What people point to most frequently about why the Senate is broken is the filibuster. And, a filibuster is where you have a bill and I say, I don't want your bill to be considered, I'm going to filibuster it, right? Well, back when Lyndon Johnson was president and when he was the majority leader of the Senate, a filibuster was a real filibuster. You had to stand up and talk, right? And you then decided whether you could get, at that time, 66 votes. In 1976, it was dropped to 60 votes. Whether you can get 60 votes to break the filibuster. But what's happened since the mid-'80s, late 80s, is people threaten filibuster. And the very threat of the filibuster kills the bill. So I think what the majority leader should do is if somebody puts a hold on something, he ought to bring it up on a Friday and let them talk all weekend. Or you ought to bring it up on before Christmas vacation and force them to talk all Christmas vacation.
Call their bluff.
Call their bluff and force them to
This
stand up.
fall,
And
they did call their bluff, and they got some legislation through.
yeah, I mean, I call their bluff, because what can happen is once they got a filibuster, they're on the floor. So that's what their contribution is in the media. Then once you got them stuck, you can then go out with your 1,000 other people and characterize them in any way you want, and they can't respond because they're still there doing
gotta
what
read the
they
phone
got to
book.
read the phone book. You can say, they're not interested in American people, they're not doing, what's in the long-term interest of our country, they're plutocrats, they're blah, blah, blah. And what are they going to say? Well, they're filibustering a particular bill, and they won't get the media time.
Are you a Harry Reid fan?
I like Harry Reid. I think Harry Reid there are various kinds of majority leaders. There's the Lyndon Johnson majority leader that controls everything and is the dominant personality. That's very rare. And then the other majority leader is the one who, kind of finds where he might get enough votes, kind of along the lines of the Chinese proverb, there are four great leaders: the leader people hate, leader people love, leader people feel, the leader people didn't even know he was a leader. And that's what another style of majority leadership is. You defer to committee chairman, you try to find. I think he's the latter. It's not a pejorative, it just
It is what it is.
is what it is. And I actually think there would not have been a health care bill had it not been for Harry Reid. Because Harry Reid did on health care exactly what I suggest on filibuster, which is, he said, we'll be here all Christmas. And the key vote on the health care bill in the Senate occurred on Christmas Eve.
Motivated people to get out. Steve, you're telling me we got to go? Okay, reception time? Okay, let's give the senator another hand for his...